Hi, everybody. It's at Skating PJ Kwong, and I am here with Paul Peret from France, amazing, legendary television producer, media room boss, and all in figure skating. Paul, welcome very much. Thank you so much for coming and talking to me today.
Thank you for having me.
It was touch and go there for a moment, but we figured it out. So that part is
Absolutely. That's
fantastic.
5 seconds.
I know, actually, seven. We had lots of time. So I want everybody to know, first of all, what is your history in sports? I mean, you're a
Ooh,
producer and you and I both know our way around sort of a press room at events, but tell me
mhm.
a little bit about your history, about your background.
Okay. I covered my first figure skating event in the previous century. It's going to be odd to say that.
Me too.
Yes, it was in 1989. I covered my first European Championships in Birmingham, and 2 months after, the Worlds in Paris. And then keep on going. I've I've been around since then, and I've been around also not only producing for French TV and doing reports, but I was also asked first by the French Federation to be press officer of the 2000 Worlds in Nice. And that brought me to other occasions, being press officer in Sweden twice and 5 times in Korea. The last one was in fact last February when I was the press officer of the 2020 Four Continents Championships, the last senior event to be taking place this season.
Oh, this season is just crazy. I mean, how are things in Europe settling down? You are right now in France, I'm assuming.
I am, yes, I am.
So COVID-19, what have the last 3, 4 months been like for you?
I would say that it's been like for everyone. Um, well, we had the outbreak, and then it was supposed to be stay at home. That means stay at home since March 17, the week that the Worlds were supposed to take place in Montreal. And everything was shut down. We had to remain at home until at least May the 11th. I'm still not going to work right now because we're not supposed to. They want people to work as much as possible from home. So that's why the computer is like a necessity. And it's going back. We don't have as many cases as we had in the previous week. Still accumulated, we have almost 30,000 dead people here in France. It's like in the top five or top six overall in the world. And ice rink just start to operate. Just. And for example, as you can imagine, all the skaters were in lockdown, no way to go to practice, to train apart from home. So they had to get in shape. Some with using like this system could have like video conferences and could learn perhaps some choreography for next season. But otherwise, it's been a real mess. Hopefully, the French Federation has organized. It started like 2 or 3 weeks ago a training camp in Courchevel, which is a famous ski resort, and also for those who are familiar with figure skating, it's famous for the Junior Grand Prix event, which every second year start the season. And then you have this training camp, which will last until the end of next week. That's about it. Otherwise, as you know, some top French skaters do not train in France, but either in the US or Canada, and they haven't practiced since March 15th, I would say.
None of us has a crystal ball, but yet lots of people are trying to figure out what will in fact happen this season. And I think quite correctly, the ISU is not, they're not in a position to be able to say one thing or another. I mean, we've got the Grand Prix events. If you look on the ISU website, they're all called, I think it's provisional or another
Provisional.
term. Yeah,
Yes.
that means that
For the
perhaps yes, perhaps no.
for
Um,
both the Senior Grand Prix and also the Challenger Series. But for the
yes,
Junior Grand Prix, two events have been canceled
yeah,
already,
including
Richmond
Canada's.
and
Yeah.
also in Slovakia. And the other 5, there is no answer right now. I mean, what the ISU has said in communications was, we will see how events are going on, and then starting from June the 1st, already 2 events have been cancelled. For the Senior Grand Prix, it has to be by August the 1st. As you know, you and me, we haven't received yet the assignments for the Grand Prix seasons. Usually you had it by the end of May, early June. It's already June 16th. We still do not know who will skate where. The only thing we know is where will the event take place, but not with whom.
Well, and it's a very challenging season in the fact that this is the season that is just before the Olympic Games.
That's when you earn the berths for the Olympics. 80% will be allocated in Stockholm officially.
Yep. And we did not have the World Championships that would have determined how many skaters representing each country would have gone to the next World Championships. It's another very challenging problem for the ISU to figure out. And then, of course, there's the whole idea of, is there enough time to train properly? One of my chats has been with Piper Gillis and Paul Poirier, and they spoke and said quite candidly that they need about 3 months to go from zero, just getting on the ice, to being competition ready. And I'm sure it's the same for skaters across the world. So we can't quite figure out, and the test event for the Olympic Games is supposed to be the Grand Prix final in December in Beijing, China. Can that take place? And if it doesn't, will there be a test event? There are just so many things to consider that it's enough to keep people busy for the next 3 months. So do you think, so let's talk a little bit about the French Federation and the fact that
there's been so much this season about the French Federation.
So many stories. Right now, Nathalie Péchalat has taken over as the leader of the French Federation, well-known Olympian, well-known to ice dance fans everywhere, Nathalie Péchalat, Fabien Bourzat. And Nathalie is someone in whom I have tremendous faith. She's extremely intelligent. She's somebody who is well traveled in the world of figure skating, and I have great faith in her honesty and integrity. How are the feelings towards her on the ground in France?
Well, you know that she was elected just 2 days before it just started this. I mean, the way that we are, not the outbreak, you've got the word in English, I'm skipping it.
You may know pandemic. The
pandemic, the outbreak, but also the lockdown. That's the word I was looking for.
Okay.
She was elected on Saturday, March 14th. And on that weekend, already there was like, should the election take place or not? Because Gallagher stepped down 5 weeks before. And according to the regulations of the French Federation, elections had to take place in the 5-week gap. So that was the last day they could take place. And one of the candidates said, well, but we couldn't travel that easily, so we had to do it again and again and again. So far, she's been elected and working from home, didn't have that many occasions to travel. I know that she had like we're doing right now, a conference with the people from Montpellier, which is to host the World Championships in 2022, the one which are right after the Olympics. So that she had to take the whole thing on her hands. She had also meetings, I guess, with the people from Angers, Angers is in the west of France. And this city is supposed to host the Junior World Synchro in March next year. So these are the 2 key things she needs to fix. Then, well, she needs to get back the confidence. As you may remember, the French sport minister said, well, we might even remove the authorization to the French Federation to operate. So that was the key thing for her to settle, to get back the confidence. It's not over yet. She needs to nominate in conjunction with the French sport minister. We call it a DTN. It's like a super executive general director, both of the sport part of it, not the administrative one, but the one who handles all the sports. As you may know, in France, it's called the French Ice Sports Federation. Not only figure skating or ice dance, but also synchro, curling, bobsleigh. What else? There are
Speed
short
skating?
track, speed
Yeah,
skating.
yeah.
There are so many different disciplines that she has to work about. And honestly, she knows that she wasn't fluent in these disciplines, but she has to know, she has to be surrounded by people who teach her and then to move on.
You
It's
know,
difficult.
it's very difficult. And as I
Mhm.
said, when you know for sure that somebody has integrity and has uh, the best interests of the sports plural in mind, like Natalie Wood, that is something to sort of think about. You know, in 2002 at the Olympic Games, I was one of the stadium announcers.
Mhm.
So, and Didier Gallagher was implicated in the scandal that took place in the Paris event. What I always wanted to figure out, and the question was never at the time correctly or answered to my satisfaction, is why? And I think that if you follow the money, then you always get the answer. It doesn't matter what the question is.
Yeah.
So there are benefits, of course, to having a successful federation, especially at the Olympic Games. Um,
Mhm.
but it seems to me that for the most part, the skaters skate. They leave all of the chess playing to everybody else. Is part of the whole chess scenario the team event at the Olympic Games? I mean, France has like an outstanding ice dance team. I mean, one of the best ever in the history of the world with
Yes.
Gabriela Papadakis and Guillaume Cizeron. Then, of course, there's the pair of Vanessa James and Morgan Cypress.
If
So,
they will come back,
yes,
that's
well,
a big issue.
yes. So that, in addition to, an explosive book by Sarah Abitbol, who used to skate with Stéphane Bernardi,
That's
again,
the that's the book I brought it to you.
let me
Like
see.
the book she wrote and made the whole thing.
It's called A Very Long Silence for those people who
Yes.
don't speak French. So why did this book, we're going to start there. Why
Mhm.
did this book cause the explosion that it did?
There were two things at the same time. On the Wednesday, we'll not forget what happened on the Wednesday. On the Wednesday morning, just at the end of January, the last week of January, the week after the Europeans, there was an article published in the Sports Daily L'Equipe. And on
Okay.
the front page, it dealt with sexual harassment in many sports, including figure skating. And then in that article, you found out about some cases. Some you might have known about, but some I honestly didn't know. And at the end of the article, there was a few lines about that book because the book was to be released the next day. So when you add both things, the book, where it's like a tell-all from Sarah Bidwell when she reveals she was raped by a coach of back then in the 90s. And then when we look at what was written about in L'Equipe, it was like a blast. And it totally um, made the explode the situation in the French Federation. I would say that perhaps Didier, do you hear me,
Yeah, I
PJ?
sure do. Yes, I
Okay,
do.
because I had a sound on my
Yeah.
computer. So at the same time, you have these two things which happened. Then Didier Gallagher was like in a wrestling contest with the French sport minister. But the French sport minister has the final cut. If
Okay.
the sports minister wants to remove the full power, the full financial power, the full subsidizing that the French state give to a federation, they can do that. So it was like a arm wrestle. And perhaps Gallagher didn't have the right words, the right arguments about that. And then, well, he had no other option than to resign. It took like 5 or 6 days. I wasn't in Paris. I was in Korea back then being a press officer. So imagine,
You and I exchanged a
yeah,
message. I was like, wow.
absolutely. It was weird for me to follow something back like
Yeah.
9,000 kilometers away and
Yes.
being asked by people in the press room, what's going on? Even by people from ISU and the skaters. Do you have any clue, whatever? So I said, this is what I know. And it took a few days. It was like a blast. It was very surprising to see that all the media were talking about it, not only the French one, but also CNN, BBC News, and other outlets,
Sure.
and also the agencies like AP, Reuters. So it's like the same magnitude, I would say. Like you mentioned 2002 with what happened with Saleh Pelletier and with
Yep.
what happened. It was absolutely the same, I would say, because it's like it was like a shakeup for everything.
Uh, well,
And then when I came back, I realized the effect it had on everything. And perhaps Gage, he still believes like 5 months after that, he didn't have to justify himself because he wasn't in charge. But he was in charge because some of the facts that Sarah said in the book, he was already in the French Federation, the head of the French team. So he was like, people would say, covering up things. And that's one of the key issues you find in the book and in the articles that he's been around like more than 20 years. There have been rumors, there have been judicial action regarding some people, but the French Federation didn't take any measures. And that may have pushed him aside. And that's why I would say the French sport minister asked for his head to be removed.
Well, and the thing that's so interesting about it, of course, is that he then resisted or has resisted leaving the Olympics, his post for the
Mm-hmm.
French Olympic Committee.
Yes.
So, what I don't understand is uh, when we move forward, let's say, and we start talking about the team event.
Mm-hmm.
So Sarah, it took great courage for her to come out. I mean, she was at the time
I
between.
saw her then. We had an occasion. We had an occasion to chat a little bit, and I just wrote a piece like a few weeks ago after what happened. She is now back in Florida, and I would say for her, in a psychological point of view, it's like going to a shrink with a book. I would say to write it down, to be able to do that, it was like a big step forward, a big leap for her. But still, there are things that happened.
Well, and she was, it needs to be noted that she was between 15 and 17 years old at the time.
Yeah,
This is
minor.
a teenager, a youngster.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if it's cathartic for her, that is the thing that is sort of most important. I know that there was some controversy again. You know, one of your legendary champions, Brian
Yeah.
Joubert,
Mm-hmm.
that he came out in favor of Didier Gallagher. Is it just because people are worried about saying the truth about a situation, or just that they just can't quite believe that this is what went on?
Difficult to say. I would say I was stunned when I heard some cases. Perhaps you remember that French ice dancer Isabelle Sarek. She
Yep.
was skating in the early 90s.
Yes.
She even participated in 1990 Worlds in Halifax
Yep.
with a partner then Xavier de Bernis.
Yep.
And in mid-February, when I came back, our sister, how would say that? One of our network, France
Okay.
3 regional network in Besançon, had an interview with her, and she revealed that she also had sexual harassment. I
Mm.
was I was stunned by that. It hasn't made that much of a headlines, but it's like opening the door of Pandora, and then you
Yes.
find cases everywhere.
You know, it's so interesting. I think that part of it is because if you were raised in a situation and you're a normal person who does not think about sexually harassing other people, at first, certainly at my age and stage, at first you can't quite believe it, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So you think, well, that must not be like not that somebody's lying, but just that you've never encountered anything like that.
No,
So it's just it's just dramatic. So if we
But
sort of,
it hasn't happened in only figure skating. It
no, of
hasn't
course not.
happened also in other sports,
Yeah,
tennis, equestrian,
yeah.
gymnastics. I mean, when you have youngsters, teenagers facing coaches, that's a key issue to address, I would say.
Well, because it's the balance of power, they call it.
Yeah,
And some of these things happen so very slowly that young people don't realize that they're being, the term in English is groomed, that somebody is at first saying nice things, and
yeah,
and then the sort of it progresses from there. So Natalie Pechala, here's her picture, beautiful.
yeah.
I saw
Hmm.
her at the Youth Olympic Games and had a chance to talk to her a little bit in
In Lausanne.
January. Yeah, it was
Hmm.
beautiful. She was there as part of the you
She was an
sorry,
ambassador. She was an
athlete
ambassador to
ambassador.
the Olympic Games.
Yeah, she and Patrick Chan were at figure skating, and so we saw each other sort of in the little dining room area. So she's got her work cut out for her. You have this outstanding team. I mean, honestly, Gabriela Papadakis and Guillaume Cizeron, maybe the best French ice dancers. Some of the best. No, let me rephrase that. Among the best ice dance teams that the world's ever seen. I mean,
Yeah,
they have broken more records. They have won every title that there is to win, with the exception of the Olympic Games, which is coming up again. But silver, not so bad. But they are outstanding.
yeah,
And then we have this next promising team. It was very disturbing to hear about Vanessa
yeah,
James and Morgan Tsipras.
totally.
So you have going into the 2022 games half of what you need in order to really
Hmm.
succeed in the team event. And then, you've got Kevin Amos, who is terrific. But let's talk a little bit about James and Cyprus. Where is the sort of French opinion on what happened to Morgan and that team?
The problem is that they haven't talked about it. That's the
Yes.
point. I mean, I met um, Morgan during the International de France, the French leg of the Grand Prix, and we didn't know at the time what happened, and it wasn't revealed yet what happened. So I couldn't tell anything. At the time, they were saying, well, we might be back at the Europeans because we are taking like a break. And I guess they knew already what was going on. They were aware of what was going on. They haven't made anything public. I've tried to have an official interview with them. I know their agent. They don't want to open it up yet. Maybe in the fall, because you have like a time of, when you look at the facts happened in the fall of 2017. And then it's a matter of law. You have to wait like 3 years before eventually something to make it official. So I guess that's why Morgan doesn't want to talk about it, and Vanessa has been very quiet about it too.
Well,
So we'll wait for it. And I would say that honest, the French Federation was very, it was like a blackout, no information. We had the same a few days after with Laurine Le Cavalier. Remember, we just found out that she had like she tested positive for smoking cocaine or whatever. And we found out just after. But when looking back at the facts, she was supposed to skate at International de France. And on that very day at the short program, suddenly her name was dropped. Say, what happened? Is she injured? That's what the French Federation said. And then trying to get the information, I realized that the doping control case took place at the French Masters 5 weeks before.
okay.
And we haven't heard from it since then. I spoke with some people around the French Federation, what's going on with Laurine. Not much. She's not practicing. No information. No word from the equivalent of the WADA in the French side. Maybe in the few weeks we will have. If I have, I will post it on my Twitter account if I have information. But it's the French Federation has been very quiet, not very much communicative about these two issues. And these were two cards for the team event. Don't forget that
Yes.
Laurine was fifth at the Europeans just a few years ago.
Yep.
Even Meyers, she
Maybe
was
Berenice
also
for
the
sure.
5'6". So that's true that France could have been among the top countries which would have been allowed to go to the final. First, you have the top 10 who are doing the short program, and the top 5 who are going to the next leg.
Yeah.
That could have been a medal. Unfortunately, I guess it's not going to be the case.
Well, we have to wait and see, because who knows how any of this, as far as the Olympic Games, who qualifies, who doesn't, all that stuff, because we still don't know how that's all going to happen. But
I guess I refer to what you said previously. I would say that I suppose that the ISU would take the entries which were supposed to be the ones for Montreal to Stockholm. I mean, if you had 3 entries in, let's say, in pairs in Montreal, you will have them in Stockholm, I guess. That would be my guess.
That's just the thing. And as I said, I'm sure that there are lots of people sort of on the ISU, different committees, trying to figure out what's going to happen and who's going to go where. So because it's extremely important to the athletes. I mean, they've been training their whole lives for this. Tell me, what does, broad strokes, what does an Olympic medal mean to France, the French people, to sport in general? In any sport, it doesn't have to be figure skating.
No, but you know that at the Olympics, when you look at the Summer Olympics or the Winter Olympics, which are the key events at the Winter Olympics? You have downhill, the men downhill, in skiing, and then in figure skating, it's the ladies' event. Let's be honest, these are the 2 that people will remember forever. Of course, in Japan, they remember that in 2014, 2018, Yuzuru Hanyu was Olympic champion. He made like a double, which hasn't been done for 60 years with Dick Button. But usually these are the 2 key, I would say, titles to win at the Olympics, in the Winter Olympics. And in the Summer Olympics, it's like the Usain Bolt. Look at what happened. He's like famous around the world because it's the 100 meters dash. That's the easiest medal to remember, because it's the one you're watching. It doesn't take too long. It's not technical. It's the fastest man wins. Period.
Yes. Period.
That's the one to remember. Of course, we have had in the past major Olympic champions. I don't know. Well, for example, Marie-Josée Peret, who's been 3-time Olympic champion, twice in a row on the 400 meters and once with 2 meters. She is like an icon in France. We have right now in judo Teddy Riner, because he's had so many wins. He's been defeated for the first time in 10 years in February. These are the ones. Even I will give an example with figure skating. Philippe Candeloro.
Yes.
He has never won any title at all. Never European champion, never world champion, but just never world champion, never European champion, but just runner-up at both events. And he was able to seize the moment at the Olympics. Remember, in 1994, you had the comeback of Petrenko, of Boitano, of Kurt Browning, that was the reigning world champion. And he was able to pull it, to go through and make it 3rd at 1994. In 1998, nobody also was expecting him to win a medal. Let's be honest. I was in Milan a month before. He didn't make the podium. He was only 4th. But remember that at the Olympics, who was the reigning European champion in 98? Alexei Yagudin. But he didn't win any medal at the 98. But who didn't show up at the Europeans in 1998? That was a smart move by Tarasova. Remember, Kulik was the European Olympic champion. And remember that Stoico was 2nd with his groin injury.
Yeah.
And Yagudin was ill with the flu. Also, who had Todd Eldridge wasn't skating it well. And Philippe was being with his D'Artagnan routine, and he made it. And he's popular. He's been living on that popularity since 1994 with The Godfather and D'Artagnan in 1998. So these are the things. And remember, Kurt Browning has never won an Olympic title, an Olympic medal, but he's still an icon because he's done so much in figure skating. It's the personality that matters, I would say.
Philippe has a huge personality. He's very
True.
charming. I've met him lots of times, sort of in international row at skating events, where you're doing commentary. Everybody's squished in beside each other.
Mhm.
Who's another amazing French personality? Laurent Taubel.
Yes,
Oh my goodness,
yes,
so much fun. If you haven't seen him, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, go to YouTube, look up
yeah.
Laurent Taubel. Some of the most entertaining, innovative musical skating.
Hmm.
He took his talent and he capitalized on it and just used just the most amazing. His Pink Panther routine is probably my
It is.
favorite.
It is. It,
It
it
is
was in
outstanding.
1999, I think, at the Worlds in Helsinki. I posted to his former coach back then, Annick Dumont, and she said, "Oh wow, I didn't remember it was that old routine." So yeah, but he made it, and he was successful with that one, and also with the music of what's the name of the movie? I'll skip it right now. It's with Meyers. Oh
Oh yeah, Mike Myers. Um,
yeah,
uh, oh come
Mike
on.
Myers.
Yeah,
We
it's
both of us we skipped the name of it.
purple. He's got the blue. Oh, for heaven's sakes. Anyway, it'll come back to me. Anybody out there? Oh wait, somebody's probably got an answer for us. Uh, oh wait, you're getting a lovely comment.
Really?
Um, I love Laurent too. Okay, Elizabeth Cardosa Taylor. The name of that Mike Myers movie. Not The Spy
Austin
Who Shagged
Powers. Austin Powers.
Thank you very much. Did you just Google it? You can tell
No,
me.
no, no, no. It came back in my mind. These are the two routines which are stick to him. I would say that afterwards, no skater should skate on that music.
I agree. It's kind of like
It's like
Love Story,
yeah, you put a picture.
Casablanca.
Yeah, you put a picture of Brian Joubert, who could now skate with Matrix. I mean, he
Yeah,
has been so much in it that you can't skate it anymore. It's like Bolero from Ravel or whatever.
yeah.
When you have when it clicks, you should skip it. Don't go back to it. Don't.
It's like if you were in a hockey team, retire the jersey, retire the number. We should retire the music if somebody has skated to it beautifully.
Perhaps we should give like a -1 music deduction if you use that music.
Maybe so. So
Yeah.
tell me what you think. What would be um, the way forward for French figure skating? I mean, you've got, as I said, so many amazingly talented athletes. Let's pretend this was a normal season. What would you like to see?
No. Uh, what you have been noticing something which is very unusual when you look at who are the reigning French champions. Unfortunately, all of them train overseas. None train in France.
Oh,
My Berenice, she trains in Florida. Kevin Emos, he trains in Florida. The French Vanessa and Morgan, they trained also in Florida. And what about the ice dancers, Gabriel and Guillaume? They train also overseas on the other side of the Atlantic. So
yep.
that's not common, I would say. Would that be the same? Imagine, for example, that American skaters would train apart from the US, but in Canada, whoever. I don't know how the US figure skating would react about that. That's I
But it's interesting. I have friends who talk. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I have friends who
no.
talk to me to say, back in 2014, when Tessa Virtue and Scott Moyer were
Yeah,
training with at the same location as
Montreal.
no, they weren't in Montreal in 2014. They were
Oh,
still
Detroit, you mean? You
in
Detroit, yeah.
Detroit. Yeah.
Hmm.
So with Charlie White and Merrill Davis, and
Absolutely.
people were saying, "How's that possible? How's that possible?" And I said, "Because it's a free market. You go
Hmm.
as a skater where you feel there is a coach who will be able to help you most.
Yeah,
So that can be in your own country, that can be somewhere else. I mean,
sure. But
Patrick Chen trained in Colorado for a
Florida
long time."
Springs. Yeah.
And yet we've got Yuzuru Henny from Japan training in Toronto in Patrick's
Hmm.
backyard.
Looking for
So
the best. Looking
yeah,
for the best location.
and I think that coaches at the elite level, they're all sensational.
Yeah.
They have to be good in order to produce those skaters. But what
But
the magic is the combination of the personalities, I think.
Okay, but look at what happened in ice dance, especially.
Yeah.
In 2011 at the Worlds in Moscow, all three medalists were trained in Detroit. Spielband and
Marina Zueva.
Marina Zueva, they were handling Charlie and Meryl, the Shubutanis, and also the Tess and Scott.
Yeah.
All three were coached in the US. And you had the same, you look at what's happening right now in Montreal. You have so many talents. You mentioned with Tessa and Scott, they train in Montreal, the same place where Gabriela and Guillaume are training right now. It's like you need some competition in order to improve, to up your level. That's how you improve it. Look, for example, in Russia. Remember, look what's going on in Russia right now with Eteri Tudberidze. I mean, one of the girls is moving. She's going to go with Plushenko.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the first time in the ladies, I guess, that all three at the Europeans and also the Grand Prix final were coached by the same team.
Yeah.
Eteri Tudberidze with Sergei Davidot and Gleikenhaus as the choreographer. So as you said, but afterwards, you need some attention, the same equivalent attention. That's the key part of a coaching team, to give as much attention to everyone. They need to get the feeling that I have as much as attention as the other, not less than, but as the same level. And that's interesting to see. Look at in Toronto. I mean, you had Javier and Yuzuru, and also Nam Nguyen, if I'm right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And right now you still have Yuzuru, you have also Jason Brown, and it ups their level. I would say they are improving their skills because they have to face competition. Also in Russia, and remember the late 90s, you had Plushenko with Yagudin, and also Urmanov, coached by Mishin. Who was worried about at that time? No one was complaining.
Yeah.
No one. Now it's like, oh, you shouldn't go. Yeah, but look at the benefits you get facing competition. I would say that's important to get the best out of you.
Yeah, for sure. Here is one final question for you from Catherine. Thank you for the great question, Catherine. Your favorite French figure skating story that you've ever covered?
Ooh, that's tough.
There are lots.
Yeah, well, I've had the chance. It's like a chance to cover so many years, as I said. I've had the opportunity to cover Surya Bonale, Philippe Candeloro, Anissina Pezra, Papadakis Cizeron, as you mentioned, the ladies.
Julobel Schoenfelder.
Yes. Pesta la Borza. I remember going there in Moscow. They've been there. When they went to Moscow. I was the first one to go and see them. They've been there for just 2 months. And I remember I asked Nathalie and Fabian, would you like to have dinner together? Oh, yeah, no, for sure. We invited them, say, that's the first real meal we're getting.
Oh, wow.
I was stunned when she told me that. And 2 or 3 years afterwards, we went to Detroit and we saw her. And she never forget that we were there. So that's important, the connection you have. Perhaps the best story I may remember, it's for the young generation. I'm not sure they will remember it, but it's Isabelle and Paul Duchenet. I'm still.
Oh my goodness!
It's still for me like a mystery.
They were wonderful.
And I had the chance to meet them several times. I did a documentary of 52 minutes. We aired just before the Olympics in 1992. We were the only ones who were allowed to see them in Oberstdorf before the Olympics. And we went also to Canada to cover Isabelle's wedding with Christopher Dean. And I did even a fishing party with Paul and his dad then. So these are the memories I have. It's more and more, I read something about soccer and about another one who was writing about Formula One. And said back then, you can have a real connection with the athletes. because you could go out, play cards or whatever. Now it's impossible because you have to go through agents with a management or whatever. It's no longer possible to do that, unfortunately. We will try. I would like to make a documentary about um, Gabriel Guillaume, especially because it's the Olympics ahead, and also, because of what uh, Guillaume just opened up. Here
He
is,
came out. Yeah.
yeah, this is
Let me get a little closer.
yeah, this is the, I think you see it right. That's the front page of a French sport daily, L'Equipe. When he
To,
opened up, he made a picture on his Instagram post, and then he did that article.
so he came out as being gay.
Yes, that was huge in France here, because that should be normal, I would say.
I agree.
But still, he's like, he said that because I'm living in Montreal, there are things I can do that I would not be able to do in France, like opening up, for example.
Really?
Yes, he said that.
That
So
surprises me because I would have thought of France as extremely open-minded.
no, no, not for that issue. Have you seen
Interesting.
many soccer player admitting, or many rugby players admitting, or many tennis player admitting they're gay? I
I guess
haven't.
not. No.
I haven't. Okay, it may be more common on figure skating because of what the skills you need for, but still, you don't see it open. It's not easy for an athlete to open up and say, I love a person from the same sex, period. That should be his own business. But obviously, there are still some barriers about that. But
You know,
going back to what I said, the Duchesnes, these are still here. I still miss them. I've been in touch with Isabel like a few months ago, and my dream will be for Gabriela Guillaume to meet with Isabel and Paul and to make a story of it. That's my dream. I've talked about it with Romain. He knows about it. Now it won't be any more surprise if we do that, because Gabriela Guillaume may hear about it, but that might be like that's my milestone, I would say, to achieve, if I can do that, because I guess there are things to teach, to tell them, even though maybe if they have a much better level they have achieved with Gabriel and Guillaume. But I guess we in another dimension with Isabel and Paul. Remember, if for those who are watching, remember 1998 when they did that, the jungle routine. It
yes.
it was totally brand new. It brought confusion in the juries. I remember when there was a Polish judge which she didn't put the right finger on the right button for the judge. At that time, you had the 6-0. Instead of
Yep.
putting 5-8, she put 4-8. And she said, I apologize. I made a mistake. And I know the judge, I would not believe it. I don't
I
know.
say nothing. I say
Yeah.
nothing.
Well, you made a sign. But
I was
I
an
would say that,
ice dance coach, so that's why I can
yeah,
say
but
that.
I mean, maybe they didn't pick the right music for the Olympic then, because using West Side Story is like the -1 deduction, maybe. But that's the kind of music perhaps you should avoid. And exactly when you compare to what did Klimova Ponomarenko with a back routine, you were in another league, I would say, unfortunately. Okay, they were second. They miss it. But still, they may be more popular than Anistina Pezra or Dolber Schoenfelder, or with Peshala Borza, or even with Gabriel Guillaume, because they had that image, that sense. You still have it in your mind, and it's like 30 years ago.
I
Okay,
know.
we made you and I, we may be an older generation, but we still have it. If those who are watching can watch, especially the missing routine from
Oh,
Halifax in
yep,
1990,
yep.
it's like a classic. I remember I tweeted that because Jackie Wong was asking, name your favorite new routine, and I put that. I said, watch this one. because that's the one you will remember forever.
I was in the audience at the 1990 Worlds.
I was
And
covering the event.
were you? That's where I decided to become a stadium announcer. True story. But because I thought the stadium announcers had very good seats, and they
That's
do.
true.
I
And I
know.
remember, and back then I had a very good connection with Paul and Isabel, and we met their parents.
Oh, they're supposed to be
And
lovely.
I was very fortunate to know where they were located. That's a story I'm gonna say. And and I know that the CBC people were asking, "Do you know where the parents are?" I say, "Yes." And said, "But we would like to film." Say, "Me too." So we made an agreement. I'll tell you where they're seated, and you give me the footage afterwards. And they
That
and the CBC was very correct about it. They didn't show that much on the air, and I had the full pictures. And you didn't have to put any voice over on these 4 minutes. You had it all on their eyes, on the parents. It's like one of my best memories. That's why I picked Isabel and Paul, I
Well,
guess.
do you know what? And they were also, there is something about people who are willing to take a risk creatively
Oh,
that
yeah.
that's who I remember. So I remember them for that missing program, and also the jungle program was just
Hmm.
something. It was moving in a different way. You're absolutely right.
And
Um,
the tango also,
oh yeah,
1998.
you know, Christopher Dean
But Christopher Dean.
and yeah, and Jane Torval, again, legendary in terms of their movement. I really felt that Gabriella and Guillaume really, really stretched out, especially in the last this last season, whenever it ended. I really felt that they were really taking many more risks creatively, and they're always been a beautiful team to watch. I mean, unbelievable speed, great
Hmm.
unison, all of those things. But to see them taking risks creatively is something that really that's what really speaks to me always. So,
And they have worked with Christopher Dean.
yep, yep. You know what? He's a legend. He's a legend. But you know what? I got to tell you something before I let you go.
Yeah.
Here is very high praise. Gail Murphy, one of our best skating fans. I am going to have you back again if you'll come. Great stories. You have been
Oh, that's sweet.
That is sweet. Gail, thank you for that because I agree. This has been absolutely wonderful. I knew that we would have a great conversation just talking as two sort of old timers talking about the sport. I hope we get a chance to see each other around the rink sometime soon. Everybody, follow Paul on Twitter. He's Paul_Peret for more great information and stories. Thank you so much for joining me today. You were
Thank you.
outstanding.
Thank you for having me, PJ, and see you soon.
A
Perhaps
bientôt.
in a press room if I act as a press officer. We never know.
I hope you will. And if not, we'll just be trading information anyway.
No problem.
Thank you. See you again.
See you. Thank you very much.